Activity 2 na tayo. Sa Activity 2, you are tasked to determine the accounting elements. So, i-determine natin yung accounting elements that were affected by the transactions transpired in the business of Mr. Pete. Sabi, the following transactions were made during the first month of sole proprietor's business operation. Transaction number 1. So, sa transaction number 1, ang sabi dyan, Mr. Pete started a grocery store. He invested 400,000 as initial investment. So, may grocery store na sinimulan si Mr. Pete. Imagine this is a building. It represents your business. And then this is Mr. Pete. Sabi natin nung nakaraang discussions, you have your entity assumption. Separate yung personality ng business and then separate yung personality ng owner. Ang ina-account natin is on the side of the business or in the perspective of the business. What happened in your transaction 1? In transaction 1, from his personal money, naglipat siya ng 400,000 sa business. So, Mr. Pete transferred 400,000 pesos sa business. Kung i-analyze natin to, ano yung mga accounting elements na affected? Una, nagkaroon ng increase in asset. In the form of what? In the form of cash na 400,000 pesos. And sabi natin kanina, in every transaction, dual ang effect. Ano pa kaya yung element na naapektuhan? Anong tawag dun sa investment ng owner? Pag nag-i-invest yung owner. So that is your equity. Karoon ng increase sa equity in the form of Pete equity, the same amount, 400,000 pesos. Number 2, second transaction. Sabi sa second transaction, si Mr. Pete nagbayad ng registration ng business. So, he paid registration fees for 1,000 pesos, which is necessary in the operations of the business. Sabi natin, if the cost is related to the operations of the business in order for it to be able to produce a profit, ang tawag natin doon is expense. So, nagkaroon ng increase ng expense in the form of taxes and licenses at the amount of 1,000 pesos. And then, may payment na nangyari. Kapag may payment na nangyari, lumalabas ang cash. If lumabas ang cash, nagkakaroon ng decrease sa asset. So, there was a decrease in asset in the form of cash na 1,000 pesos. Number 3. In third transaction naman sabi, si Mr. Pete, the owner of the business, nagbayad daw siya ng rent ng business for 24,000 pesos, good for 12 months. So, paano natin yun i-account? Una, there was a payment. Again, an outflow of cash. That is a decrease of asset in the form of cash, 24,000 pesos. Ano pa? There was an increase in your asset in the form of prepaid rent, 24,000 pesos. Bakit prepaid? In your problem, it was stated that yung mga transactions na to nangyari in the first month. So, in the first month of operations nangyari. Yon. And then, yung binayaran ni Mr. Pete is good for 12 months. So, nag-advance siya ng rent for 12 months. So, for example, we started January. And then, yung rent na binayaran is good for January to December. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa natin makakonsume yung rent. And I told you a while ago, if the resources are not yet consumed, that is to be considered as prepaid. So, prepaid rin. Number 4. Fourth transaction. Sabi sa fourth transaction natin, nagbayad siya ng repairs and maintenance, repairs for the grocery. So, that is again necessary for the operations of the business. Ibig sabihin, nagkaroon ng increase in your expense in the form of repairs and maintenance at the amount of 40,000 pesos. Again, there was a payment. So, ibig sabihin, magdi-decrease yung asset natin in the form of cash, 40,000 pesos. Number 5. In number 5, nag-acquire tayo ng inventory or nag-acquire yung business ng inventory amounting to 400,000, yung 300,000 cash, and then accounts payable or utang natin yung remaining. So, 400,000 minus 300,000, that is 100,000 utang natin. Paano natin yan i-account? Una, nagkaroon tayo ng increase in asset in the form of inventory na 400,000. And then, nagkaroon tayo ng decrease na, because there was a payment of cash, decrease of asset in the form of cash na 300,000 pesos. And then, there was an increase in your liability in the form of accounts payable na 100,000 pesos. And then, sasabihin niyo sa akin, Ma'am, akala ko ba double effect? Ba't tatlo yan? Actually, dalawa yung transactions na nangyari dyan. Una, yung payment ng inventory, and then pangalawa, yung acquisition ng liability. So, kung paghihiwalayin mo yan, there was an increase in your asset in the form of inventory, 300,000, and then decrease in your asset in the form of cash na 300,000. Another one, there was an increase in your liability in the form of accounts payable na 100,000, and then increase in your asset in the form of inventory na 100,000. So, kung ipa-plus lang din natin yan, and then this one, it's the same, 400,000 pesos. And then, number 6, transaction 6. Ano yung nangyari sa transaction 6 natin? So, in transaction 6, he paid 2,000 pesos for the transportation of the merchandise purchased. So, yung merchandise na na-purchase, may binayaran siya na parang delivery expense, yung delivery cost. Yon. In accounting, kung yung delivery is part of the inventory, magiging karagdagan siya ng inventory. Idadagdag natin siya sa cost ng inventory. So, anong nangyari? Nagkaroon ng increase in asset in the form of inventory. By the way, this is your perpetual method. 2,000 and then a decrease of asset in the form of cash na 2,000 pesos. Regarding the treatment of delivery cost for inventory, may dalawang method tayo dyan. And even the recording of the acquisition of inventory, we have two methods. You have your perpetual and then you have your periodic. But for this problem, I will be using the perpetual method. We will not go in detail because our focus for this subject is for your servicing business. Number 7. In number 7, sabi, he hired a sales lady for a contract of 6,000 pesos per month. So, sabi natin kanina again, we are only to recognize transactions that are accountable. We say it's accountable when it has an effect in your accounting elements, whether it's a real account or a nominal account. In your transaction number 7, do you think it has an effect in your accounting element? Anong sinabi dyan? Nagkaroon ng increase ng employee. So, nag-hire ka. I mean, Mr. Pete hired a sales lady. Yun, so, do you think it has an effect in your accounting elements? Because, wala siyang effect. Wala namang nadagdag na cash, walang nabawasan na cash. The statement of 6,000 pesos there, hindi porket may pera dyan, sasabihin nyo na sa akin na may accounting element. Kasi kung titingnan mo, walang transaction na nangyari. Sinabi lang dyan na ang sweldo niya per month is 6,000 pesos. Yun yung pinirmahan niya sa kontrata. But as to the payment or inflow, outflow of cash, wala. Yun. So, it was only a statement of fact. So, we are going to place not accountable. Hindi siya accountable na transactions. Maybe for other field, but not for accounting. Number 8. He sold 200,000 worth of merchandise for 320 pesos. 320,000 pesos na cash. So, nagbenta daw siya ng inventory niya for 320,000 pesos. Pure na cash. Paano natin siya i-account? So, una, nagkaroon tayo ng increase, may pumasok na cash. So, nagkaroon tayo ng increase in asset in the amount of 320,000 pesos. Ano pang nag-increase? Nag-increase yung income natin kasi nagkaroon tayo ng sales na 320,000 pesos din. Okay, so that is the first transaction. An inflow of cash in the form of sales. And then, nabawasan na naman yung inventory natin. Nabawasan yung inventory natin ng 200,000. So, ibig sabihin yung kalahati ng inventory na benta, may patong tayo na 120,000, kaya naging 320,000. Nagkaroon ng decrease sa asset natin in the form of inventory, 200,000 pesos, and then, nagkaroon ng increase sa expense. Dito nalalabas yung matching principle. Sabi, walang income kung walang expense. So, ito yung tayo nalalabas yan. That is your cost of sales, 200,000 pesos. Yun, so nagkaroon ng increase in the form of cost of sales na 200,000 pesos. Transaction number 9. He sold 40,000 worth of merchandise for 70,000 pesos on account. Kanina, yung binenta niya, cash. Ngayon naman, pinautang niya. So, anong gagawin natin? Transaction 9, anong nangyari dyan? Nagkaroon ng increase in your asset. However, ngayon hindi na siya in the form of cash kasi pinautang natin. Accounts receivable na 70,000 pesos. Paano tayo nagkaroon ng accounts receivable? Nagkaroon ng increase sa income natin in the form of sales na 70,000 pesos. However, yung cost ng binenta natin na ito is 40,000. So, nabawasan yung asset natin in the form of inventory ng 40,000 pesos. And again, nagkaroon tayo ng increase ng expense in the form of cost of sales, 40,000 pesos. So again, lalabas at lalabas dyan yung matching principle natin. Walang income na ma-generate if there is no cost related. Number 10. Transaction number 10. Sabi, paid business taxes amounting to 9,300 during the month. Nagbayad daw siya ng taxes. So there was a payment, again, a decrease of asset in the form of cash, 9,300 pesos. And then, increase of your expenses. Nagkaroon ng increase ng expenses because taxes are related in the operations of the business. Madami actually business ang nasa surcharge because of not paying taxes. And that is part of the operations of the business. Expenses, taxes, and licenses, 9,300 pesos. Number 11. Transaction 11 na tayo, sabi. He paid 4,000 electricity expense during the month. So, nagbayad na naman siya. Payment. Decrease in your asset in the form of cash, 4,000 pesos. And then, nagkaroon ng increase sa expense because yung electricity is part directly related to the operations of the business. Hindi naman tayo pwedeng magkaroon ng business na walang kuryente. Yun. So, yung expense natin, that is utility expense. In accounting, ang ginagawa, yung water and then electricity bill, nilalagay siya sa utility expense. So, 4,000 pesos. 12. Malapit na tayong matapos. He paid the salary of the sales lady. Now, is this accountable or not? Yes, it is. Because there was a payment of cash. So, nagkaroon na naman ng decrease sa asset in the form of cash. Magkano ba yung sweldo ni sales lady? Babalikan na natin ngayon sa number 7. Ang sabi dyan, ang sweldo ni sales lady is 6,000. So there was an increase, a decrease of asset in the form of cash, 6,000. And then, an increase of your expense, salaries, and wages na 6,000 pesos. Ayun, so nagkaroon ng increase sa expense because yung pag-hire kay sales lady is directly related sa operations ng business. 13. Number 13, last, he paid 50% of his obligation to his supplier. So nagbayad daw siya ng 50% ng utang niya. Saan ba yon? So yung utang niya was in transaction number 5. Nagkaroon siya ng utang na 100,000 sa number 5. Binayaran daw niya yung 50%. So, may payment, may outflow ng cash, asset, and then cash, that is 50%. So, 50,000. And then, babawasan natin yung liability. Na 50,000 pesos. Ayan, so yan yung analysis natin sa accounting elements.